back to Medrash Umaisa, sharing a story for this week's Parsha, Parshas Nitzavim. A certain incident at the end of the wonderful and amazing story of how the Mir Yeshiva managed to escape and spend the war years through Shanghai happened when they were finally able to leave Shanghai at the end of the war. The United States and Canada had opened consulates, and there was an opportunity for most of the Talmidim to be able to get visas to either of those destinations. Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, the Rosh Yeshiva, announced from the beginning that he would be the last one to get a visa. He wanted to be sure that every single one of the yeshiva Talmidim was taken care of. And in fact, all the Talmidim of the yeshiva had visas, aside from one. There was one Talmid who had suffered a nervous breakdown during his time in Shanghai. And the US and Canadian officials were flexible when it came to physical illness, but very inflexible when it came to mental illness. They did not want to let anyone into the country if they had some kind of psychiatric condition. So the Talmidim spoke to members of the local Jewish community in Shanghai, and they worked something out that he would be able to stay on in Shanghai and be taken care of. Rav Chaim refused. He said, no, we don't leave without him. Either he goes or none of us go. And I'm not getting my visa until he gets his. There was a lot of bitterness in the yeshiva students. They suffered greatly in Shanghai. Even though they had a better fate than those who stayed in Europe, it was not easy. And they were longing to get to other countries and restart their lives. Rav Chaim took a few students, especially one who was very close with this young man who had had the breakdown, and he went with them to the consulate. Before that, he had coached the young man and tried to prepare him to answer the questions that were going to be posed to him during the interview. It was very difficult because the young man changed identity from day to day or hour to hour. One day he was a Hasidic Rebbe, one day he was a Rosh Yeshiva. Reb Chaim went in with him, and the boy made it through the interview almost till the end. Reb Chaim was basically feeding him the answers to the question. Suddenly he leaped to his feet and started ranting in Yiddish. The official from the consulate was concerned. He said, what's going on? What's wrong with him? Rav Chaim explained that this is a young man who had dreamed all of his life of going to America, and now that his dream was finally going to be fulfilled, he couldn't control himself and was just, shouting his enthusiasm and praise to God for letting him do that. But there was one more stage to the process that was very difficult. Each candidate had to go into the consul's office one by one, alone, without anyone accompanying them, and raise their hand and pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Here, they didn't know what they would do. Suddenly, the woman who was the consul came out. She had to go somewhere. Many, many people were waiting outside her room. She said, okay, everybody, raise your hand and say together. So Chaim helped the young man prop up his hand. He didn't really say anything, but he got his papers and went. The story didn't stop there. Reb Chaim was concerned that during the journey on the ship, his psychiatric condition would be revealed, and then he would be stopped when he entered the United States. He felt that the only possibility would be for him to fly. It was very difficult to get a flight, and Reb Chaim viewed the situation as so serious. He booked from the only flight he could get, which was on Shabbos. On the day of the flight, the boy disappeared. Rav Chaim sent shlichim out throughout Shanghai to try and find him in the streets. When they finally found him, he ordered a taxi and sent one of the boys from the yeshiva with him in the taxi and said, go with him, make sure he gets on the plane. Baruch Hashem, the story did have a happy ending. After the young man made it to the United States, he had a full recovery and married and built a very fine Jewish home in the United States of America. These parshas speak about the concept of arvus, of the responsibility that each Jew has for the others. This is something that was formed on Har Grizim and Har Evel before Am Yisrael went into Eretz Yisrael and is with us throughout. Rav Chaim, who was the captain of that ship, was that example to all of his Talmidim, to all of us who hear this story to this very day. Have a wonderful Shabbos.